Oh my goodness gracious. I didn't realize what was next on the list though. This one's
This
going to
makes
make some
people
people
mad.
mad. I made a post on this and people got more pissed about this one than anything else.
Yeah.
So
People don't like to
let's
be challenged anymore, and it's frustrating.
in.
Challenged
Bring
to
it in,
think a
Jennifer.
little bit. So this is organic foods. I would say one of the biggest scams in nutrition, fitness, health, what marketing industry you could think of is the organic food label. So the US organic food market grew from less than 8 billion in sales in 2000 to over 50 billion in 2021. So this was just metrics from the more
Oh my
recent data. I don't
gosh.
even have to 2024. There is so much money in organic food just by slapping on that label. So that's the first thing. I just want to highlight that. It's a money grab. That's what it is. It's a cash grab, the organic food industry. When it started, it was when the Clinton administration was around, and his name was Dan Glickman, and he oversaw the organics label designation. And he said, and I quote, "It is not a statement about food safety, nor is organic a value judgment about nutrition or quality of food."
Can you can you say that again? I want you to say that again for the people listening. This is the person who is in charge of making organic a thing, organic labeling a thing. The person who created it said what?
It is not a statement about food safety, nor is organic a value judgment about nutrition or quality. That was never the intention. Our society,
I almost want to make you say it again. That's ridiculous.
Did that. Yeah. So through very clever and very misleading marketing, this health halo effect has developed around organic food. What that is this health halo effect. It's an act of overestimating the healthfulness of an item based off of a single claim, such as organic, all natural, free range, things like that. And
non-GMO.
Yeah. And that is when it started to blow up. Because it's organic, it's better for you. It's healthier for you. Not organic means bad. And this industry boomed. It took over. There's so much money in now attaching this label, and it is just deceiving people left and fucking. And why do I say that? So first you have to understand, like, what is the main difference between organic and conventional food? So there's this impression that organic food is grown without chemicals. That's the biggest thing you'll see people say all the time. You have to buy organic to avoid the chemicals, the pesticides, they're toxic. This is wrong. All farmers, both organic and conventional farmers, use both chemical and non-chemical containment methods. Organic regulations were designed to promote the use of natural chemicals over synthetic ones. However, over 100 fertilizers and inputs, so this could be pesticides, insecticides, fungicides, are authorized by organic farming regulations in the US and Europe, and non-synthetic pesticides, as well as synthetic pesticides, are permitted in organic farming. That's the biggest thing, is they're trying to make this distinguishment between the type of pesticide or chemical used. However, it's actually not true. Synthetic pesticides and chemicals are permitted in organic farming. That's the craziest thing to me. And
that's the number one argument that people will clap at me when I say that is like, are you seriously putting pesticides in your body by eating non-organic? And I'm like, this person doesn't even know what organic means.
Yeah. It's really just the designation of natural chemicals versus synthetic ones. It doesn't mean that there's no chemicals or no pesticides used. It's the type. And you go a step further, and now it's like, well, actually, if you read between the lines, farmers just have to get approval to use these not natural or synthetic chemicals and pesticides. Organic farmers have gotten approval from the USDA to use dozens of synthetic chemicals. So they're still used, and non-synthetic pesticides, or these natural pesticides, are actually less effective than synthetic pesticides, therefore are used at much higher quantities. So it's still a pesticide. You're still getting these chemicals. It's just a type of chemical. And there is so much more sprayed on organic crops. So what would we do without pesticides? We wouldn't have food. This allows us to have a lot of food to feed a lot of people because we can prevent these crops from dying out, from getting eaten by these bugs. We can make a lot of them. We can transport them. And they're so heavily regulated, which is going to be my next point. Get this in your head, that organic does not mean chemical free or pesticide free. Organic still uses pesticides and chemicals. And the biggest scam. And then you get this going into this argument that organic foods are safer to eat. All pesticides, synthetic or not, must meet identical safety standards. So when used appropriately, approved chemicals, synthetic or natural, do not pose any meaningful health risks. Food scientists at the University of California, Davis concluded that the marginal benefits of reducing human exposure to pesticides in the diet through increased consumption of organic produce appears to be insignificant. And this was looking at each year. So this is at UC Davis, but each year a team pulled from different universities, different scientists and researchers are hand selected to review all of the biggest farms in the US and test their chemicals and pesticides, organic and non-organic, for their safety measures. And this was just a metric that they pulled. And year after year, there is no difference between the safety of organic versus non-organic. And the nutritional quality of organic food, for some reason, people will say like organic is better for you, which organic has nothing to do with nutrition. One of the most comprehensive meta-analyses to date of existing studies comparing organic and conventional foods concluded that there is no strong evidence that organic foods are more nutritious or carry fewer health risks than conventional alternatives. And that, like, again, year over year, that doesn't change.
I was going to say, like, this is not just like, oh, well, it makes sense in like theory of how it might want to be healthy. That's why we do these tests, is because if it actually was more nutritious, healthier, safer, we would want to know, right? We would want to know. We would want this industry to boom. So that's why they do these tests. But like you're saying, it's like over and over and over again. It's like, oh, we found nothing. We looked hard at it. We looked deep. We looked all around it. We didn't find anything.
Yeah. And
like, it's not just speculation.
Yeah. The World Health Organization actually establishes safe intake levels of individual pesticide inputs, where they're called acceptable daily intakes, are set at levels for which exposure would have no carcinogenic effect on human health. Because that's another thing, is that pesticides cause cancer. These pesticide residues give
that's
you
a big
cancer.
one.
The food governing bodies in the US, so the US, Europe has this as well. They have these maximum residue limits. And these are enforced by these governing bodies to ensure that the consumer's food has residue levels of these pesticides so far below these safety limits. You get trace amounts. You're not even reaching the limit at which you might have some sort of health risk from ingesting this pesticide. There was a study published in the Journal of Toxicology that investigated the 10 most frequently identified pesticide residues across 12 commodity crops. And all pesticide exposure estimates were found to be well below the chronic reference dose, so that like highest dose to cause disease. And 75% of these commodities measured below 0.01% of these limits. So this means that residue levels were 1 million times lower than the threshold for which they might impose negative health effects. Over 1 million times lower.
Which
than
I don't
the
think
threshold.
people realize, like, that is virtually zero. That is virtually nothing.
Yeah.
It's just like that little footnote had to be like, this is virtually nothing. That blows my mind. Less than 0.01%.
Yeah.
From the point where it might start to cause issues. That blows my mind.
Yeah. It's really infuriating to me.
And I think why we like say this is wasting money. I mean, this is organic food is expensive. I remember we looked it up on Consumer Reports. It's on average, the organic version of foods are about 47% more expensive than their non-organic parts, right? This was on, and this was a while ago. I would not be shocked after inflation. This is before the last like 5 or so years. I wouldn't be shocked if that was even more expensive.
Yeah.
If you're a family of 4, or even just you or I, that is thousands of dollars a year that you are spending on something that is in no way, shape, or form better for you or safer for you than the conventional. You might like the taste of something, if you, the personal preference, cool, go for it. And it's not like, oh, it's a little bit healthy. It's not a little bit healthy. It's not.
No.
It's the same damn thing.
And they're still using pesticides and chemicals. I think where this got so out of hand too was with the stupid fucking Dirty Dozen list. And people are like, oh, well, the Dirty Dozen, it's unsafe. Yep. So the Dirty Dozen was created by the Environmental Working Group. And it is one of the biggest scams you could possibly think of. So what they do, what this Environmental Working Group does, is they manipulate this data that I was just telling you about, the safety of pesticides and their safety levels. And what they do is they do zero testing on pesticide concentration. They don't take any of the concentration into account. They ignore that data that is provided by the World Health Organization, the EPA, which is the Environmental Protection Agency. They don't take into account the amount of each individual pesticide. They base this Dirty Dozen ranking solely on the number of different pesticide types added to fruits and veggies. So they don't rank them based on pesticide concentration levels, which the concentration, again, dose makes the poison. The concentration determines the health and the safety of this pesticide or this food. They don't take that into account. They just say, well, bananas have 10 different types of pesticides and strawberries only have 5 different types of pesticides. So bananas are worse. They fail to account for the fact that also organic foods contain pesticides. So they just ignore that fact.
They're like, no, we're not going to look over there. Over there? No, we're not looking over there. That's
because organic does not mean pesticide free. I hate to break it to everyone. Organic foods have pesticides. This whole Dirty Dozen list is complete and utter bullshit. They are not taking dosage into account. They're just like, yeah, this food has more different types, so it's worse for you. Even though it could have a much lower concentration than, say, a different food with only one type of pesticide. But it's still worse because they're not taking concentration into account.
That's always what cracks me up, because people, when they disagree, like if I say something about that, how organic labeling is one of the biggest scams over the last few decades, they'll be like, I totally agree with you, except for the Dirty Dozen. They always say that, the Dirty Dozen, except for the Dirty Dozen, which kills me. It's that halo effect. It just has been instilled in people's minds since the day where they were born.
Over time.
It's more expensive. This is the healthier version of a food. Never. As soon as you start to look below that first layer of like, oh, why is it healthier? You're like, oh, wait, there's nothing here. Nothing, not a little bit. That blows my mind. And especially when people, the comments I get are on GMOs, on all this, which the GMO conversation cracks me up too. Because when I looked up, because I was not as familiar with GMOs to partake in like a disagreement with somebody. I knew my stance, but I didn't understand their stance well enough to partake in a disagreement. There's only, I don't think people realize this, there are 11 GMO crops that exist. 11. That's it, right? Soybeans, corn, canola, cotton, alfalfa, sugar beets, a few more. Summer squash, apples, potatoes, stuff like that. Only 11. And this cracks me up because you'll see at the grocery store, you'll get like you'll see some milk or something like that says like GMO free. And people don't realize, they're like, oh, I would choose that one. It's that halo effect. Not realizing that GMO milk doesn't exist. No. So when it says non-GMO milk, they're like, oh, this must be better. It's like, no, GMO milk doesn't exist. It's not a real thing. So they just added that because, again, it gets people to buy. And I promise you that one was $1 or $2 more than the one without GMOs on the freaking label. It cracks me up. It cracks me. And GMOs too, like they're not a bad thing.
Oh, a good GMO apple, a big, fat, gigantic, red, juicy apple. I'm like, ooh, this has so many GMOs. I'm gonna eat it, and it's gonna taste.
And it allows the food to grow bigger, hold more nutrients. Like it's crazy because people just, you're putting all that manufactured stuff in your body. It's like there's more vitamins, more minerals. I can actually leave it in my house for a couple of days without it rotting in the first 12 hours after getting home from the grocery store. they're not like negative for your health. The
People
whole thing
are
is just
so
this halo
fucking hypocritical.
effect.
It's like we don't live in a world where everyone's growing their own crops anymore. This had to happen. This had to happen so we could feed people.
It blows my mind. It absolutely, that the organic food labeling, I think, would be, if I had to rank on our list of top 10, I would say that has to be the number one.
Yeah.
The number one. Because, like, yeah, well, athletic greens.
And if you're really worried about it, like, buy fruits and vegetables in season. That's what I always try to do, because in season crops, it doesn't matter if they're organic or not organic, naturally they're going to have less pesticide residues. Not that you should need to worry about them at all, but I'm just saying, if you are the type of person that maybe you have a little bit of a fear, but you still want to save money, like, okay, transition, get over your fear by buying in season conventional crops or conventional produce first. I do that anyway because in season is typically cheaper, and it
I
just
feel like they just taste better.
Tastes better when it's
I was
in
gonna say,
season.
when I get like raspberries, blackberries in season, they just taste better.
Yeah.
But I'd still get them the rest of the year.
Oh my God. Like blueberries in the winter, it's going to be like, for me, and I'm on the East Coast, a pint of blueberries in the winter is going to be like $7.99 versus in the summer, it's going to be like $3.99.
This list is heating up.
Okay. Sorry. Next one.
Let's keep it going.